So then we are back with more understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end. As per YershiYahu the prophet, we find layers of understanding of the spring feast, the autumn feast, and also the returning of the cities of the Messiah laid waste for many centuries. As we read then YershiYahu the prophet, this very important prophet where Israel has destroyed because of convenience, let's then evaluate this precise prophet as the foundation of this understanding, because he foretold years in advance the cities of the Messiah, and then the cities laid waste, and the returning of the holy cities until the coming of the Messiah himself. So then, in the previous video it was explained as far as what type of soil then the word that comes out of the words of the Messiah encounters as far as the lives of the believers. It was explained before, convenience does not go along with the words of the Messiah. In fact, he was saying, if you want to become productive, if you want to make yourself distincting in his words on favor of those who are then being saved, what then should a person do? Should produce fruit. How can a person then produce fruit? And the Messiah explained it. So then, I'm going to do a very quick recap of what's going on. Then the Messiah himself, he said it spoke in parables to the crowd, and he would not speak to them without a parable. So what is the importance of parable? Let's explain this. Because evil inhabited people, the Messiah wanted then to give his words for those people who were interested. The Messiah knew he was the only person in the planet that had no evil and no demons in him. The rest of us, we do have. If you don't think you have demons, then you are lying to yourself. And they obviously, at some point, they come out of you via your ignorance of the Torah or the instructions. You don't perceive because you are covered with ignorance regarding many important points. So then, the Messiah spoke in parables. And the Messiah sent then later to you then was given the privilege of understanding straight what this means, because the Messiah had a control over those disciples. The Messiah knew what's going out and coming in. And the Messiah could not do this on the entire world. That's why he had chosen 12 of them to work in their lives, so then they were under his control. Now the Messiah could do this because he was holy, and he is holy. So then, with the people outside, he was always speaking in parables, because most people, they want money. Most people of his time wanted conveniences. And the Messiah would not give straight understandings from heaven to those people who were only dirty, wanting only conveniences. Either another car, or they want a new job, or they want more money, more conveniences, they want nice hotels. Those people who think when God is involved with it, everything goes so nicely. And the Messiah did not put up with those kinds of people because they were hypocrites. They were liars, plain liars. They wanted the kingdom only for their own benefit. So what then the Messiah is explaining is this. He was always speaking with the people via parables. Don't think the Messiah was there in the midst of the gathering speaking straight, because he was not. He was speaking straight with his disciples. Amongst the people, he was speaking via parables. Because the people were so ingrained themselves with money. They want more money, they want more conveniences, they want more riches. And this for them was a sign that God was with them. But the problem is, the Messiah said, what is then to you if you gain not only a few riches and more money, but even if the world would be under your authority to get whatsoever you want, yet at the end of it, your soul then is lost. We go back and we read what the Messiah has said. The kingdom of heaven is likened to leaven. And then a woman had taken and buried in few measures of flour until it was leavened. And these things then the Messiah himself spoke to the crowds, and would not speak to them without a parable. So it might be then completed the situation regarding what the prophets spoke. He would open his mouth with the parables, and will to bring out secrets that were from before the foundation of the world. Then the Messiah left the crowds and came into the house, and his disciples drew near to him and said to him, Explain to us the parable of the tares and of the field. Then he answered and said to them, He who sows the great words is the Son of Man, and the field is the world. And then what the Messiah has planted are then the sons. And the tares of the kingdom are the sons of the evil one, and the enemy who sowed them is Nahashatan. And the harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are then the angels. Therefore, as the tares are plucked and burned in the fire, likewise it will to be in the end of this world. It's going to end with a shout of sulfur. The Son of Man will send his angels out, and they will pluck from the kingdom the stumbling blocks and the workers of iniquity, and they will be cast them into the furnace of fire, and there will be gnashing. Then the righteous will shine, and the son of the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears, let him hear. So what the Messiah is explaining then? He's explaining of the autumn feast. Now, if you don't understand the revelation, then you are lost. Plain and simple, as direct as you can ever understand. You don't understand the instructions as far as revelation, then you are lost. This is what Messiah is explaining. Where do we find these truly? So then, they want an explanation what this means. And he said, very reasonably, that then the autumn feast would be then the very core of the entire understanding, or then the world then is sown in the hearts of the people. What he's saying is this: those who are then the great sons are the people listening to the Messiah. He did not say listening to the Torah. Listening to him. Besides the Messiah, he had the Torah, and he was giving explanations as far as what would be then completed in the Torah, so then his 1,000 years would then become inactive. The problem with the congregation at times, they are stuck only with the Torah, and they don't understand the completion of the Torah in his 1,000 years of reign. He is saying then it is planted in the great soil. Those are the sons. Some of them, when they receive the word, when they begin to understand what it means, the spring and autumn feast, they begin to kind of linking up the scripture, but then something in the world takes place, and then leave those understandings away. You can easily understand the evil in a person then directs the person to abandon what is then from the Word. What else he explains? And the field is the world, and then the kernels then are the great sons, and the tares of the kingdom are the sons of the evil one, and the enemy who sows them is Nahashatan, and the harvest is the end of the world. What is then the harvest? Many people think that the harvest of the end is when the Messiah comes and brings up his people out of this world. Let's read once again what the Messiah has said. And the harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. The harvest is the end of the world. The harvest is not taking the people out of this planet. For instance, contrary to what so many people they think, oh, the Messiah is coming and taking his people out of this world. No, the Messiah is saying the harvest is the end of the world. The Messiah is not only speaking of those people who are nice, who are from his holy cities only. He is explaining the end of the times. Is it only removing the people out of the planet? No, he's explaining the situation regarding the revelation. People must understand when they are evil because they are not searching. They must understand what the world is heading towards. And what the Messiah has said, the end of the world is then the harvest, is when this age is going to come to a close. Now let me ask you this, if you don't understand Revelation, what is left whatsoever is then you do whatever you want. You kind of are hanging yourself by a fine thread as far as awaiting for the time of the end, and you absolutely neglected the laws of instructions of Moses, the Torah, the prophets, the writings. And at the end you do your best, because since you don't understand Revelation in the way you should have, then you hang around as much as you can until the time of the end. And some people, they name it as rapture. Doesn't exist rapture. What the Messiah is explaining is the end of the world. It's the end of the age. Though the people did not have the understanding at his time when he was explaining this, yet the Messiah was explaining his time of the completion of the spring feast, and he was pointing towards the autumn feast. Now let me ask you this. You go into a congregation, you begin to speak, oh, did you know that the Messiah completed the spring feast and he was teaching the autumn feast? People are going to stare at your face. First, they are ignorant. They don't understand what the Messiah said, while they should have. They don't understand Revelation, and they are not saved, and they are the blind leading the blind. Not say then a person should neglect the Torah. That's not the point. The point is the Messiah came with the Torah, and he did precisely what the Torah stated it, and he completed the spring feast. And then the services that should be linked with him was then the completion of this spring feast, and then 1,000 years of his reign linked with his system. And what those were? The Torah, and then half of it completed on his behalf. Thus he then directed the world for 1,000 years, until 1009 of the regular calendar. Then the cities were destroyed. Then there were no more cities. The world was without directives. Thus the term the New World Order, and ended in 2009. Thus the 1,000 years of Nahashatan, or the 1,000 years of deceit. That's what so many people believe. Churches, and they neglected the laws of Moses. They think the instructions were abolished. They do whatsoever they want. They are in sin. They don't care. They don't know revelation. Yet they claim themselves as saved, and they make their families as holy. Let's read once again the words of the Messiah. And we understand the Messiah did not talk with the people straight. Some people have the misunderstanding that then there is a preacher up front explaining them directly. The Messiah was speaking to them in parables. Because when people are lazy, when the people they do not want the truth, when only people they want conveniences, they only filter what they want. And then when Messiah was explaining in parables, then the person had to want what the Messiah was explaining. And then Ruach HaKodesh would do the rest of the work. What is it then as far as the end of the world? Then the harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. Where do you hear the reapers are the angels? He's explaining of the 7 shofars and then the 7 cups. He's explaining of the autumn feast. Now let me ask you this. You go to a congregation, you only hear repetitious things most of the time, and you find some sort of a links sometimes with the Torah that's not even linked with what's going on in the world. It's not linked with Revelation, where the Messiah is explaining the end of the world is related with the autumn feast. And then people are waiting and then get older and older, and they die and they're going straight down. Because the Messiah was not playing jokes. What was the order of Moshe? Moses said, when the prophet comes, when the prophet comes, then you must listen. The Messiah, in the words he said, is above what Moses said. Let's make this extremely clear. Moses gave the law, but he said when this prophet, promised prophet comes, he must be listened. So if we only focus our love and our understanding only in the Torah, and we neglect the Messiah and his holy cities, then we are lost. The proof of salvation is understanding Revelation, because then makes you revealed. Now when people don't study it, when the people they are only wandering around with the laws of Moses and don't understand what the Messiah has done, then they are lost. This is what the Messiah has said, even Israel. Even those who are from the Lord then are lost, because they did not understand what the Messiah came to do. Now, how can a congregation then change this understanding so then the people can truly be saved by understanding Revelation? This is what the Messiah was explaining. You can know the Torah, you can verbate the entire Torah. If you don't understand what Messiah said regarding the autumn feast, you are lost. That's why the Messiah was saying, even the people of the law, he said prostitutes and thieves are going to enter the kingdom of heaven, and these people of the law are going to be left out. So then, every person wants conveniences. Every person wants to ride a nice car, for instance, a new car. Every person wants to stay in the nicest places. Every person wants to have a nice home, a nice family. What about the salt of the earth? Do you want to make this world your nice place, or do you want you yourself being used so they can warn the people outside, because there's a judgment coming, and if a person doesn't understand a revelation, a person is lost? Only do the best you can, have to understand a bit of this, a bit of that, a bit of the other. And only wait around, God understands. If you understand, you don't, and then when you die, you go to heaven. No, you're going straight down. This was a language of the 1,000 years of deceit. And we have come out of the 1,000 years of deceit. But then remnants of this period remains with people. They want nice families, niceties, and inconveniences, and they don't want to hear what the Messiah has said. And then do you understand Revelation? Meh. Most of these symbolism, no, they have a meaning. And if a person doesn't understand Revelation, a person is not revealed, therefore not saved. Where do we find, as far as saying then what the Messiah had done for his people, what he was trying to say? Let's make an analysis of these, so then takes away the ignorance from the equation. If you say your sins, he is just to forgive your sins and cleanse you from what is dirty or any kind of unrighteous acts. The point is, was YershiYahu mentioning these to his people or to the Gentiles? Because if you are saying these to his people, then they did understand what it meant, revelation. Not precisely in the words of Yohanan that it would come later, but from what the Messiah himself has said. The harvest is the end of the world. The harvest is not only saving those who are from the holy cities or the righteous. The harvest is the end of the world, is the complete counsel of what then Moses taught and the Messiah taught. Spring feast and autumn feast. We must understand what goes on in the minds of the unbelievers when they die, where they are going, understanding how it's going to work then, the 7 shofars and the 7 cups. And not only this, but then when the Messiah returns, what's going to take place with this planet? This truly is the end of the world. Now, Christians and people of congregations, they think, oh, they do the best they can with the sin or not sin. Then they wait around because they did their best and they had nice families and they did their best. Then they buy themselves their own salvation ticket. You understand how evil is? They buy their way into heaven. And what then the Messiah has explained? If we don't understand Revelation as far as the end of the world, or then the harvest at the end, then a person is not saved. Now, you go sometimes to a congregation, a synagogue, you don't hear people talking of Revelation because they are ignorant. What other word can be used to soften up the situation? They are ignorant. Now, if you try then lovingly to explain, then they don't let you explain. Because in their viewpoint, God is always linked with convenience. And the Messiah was not for convenience. The Messiah was preparing his people because they are going to confront the evils of this world. But then the people of congregations, they don't want to confront the evils of the world. They want to walk hand to hand with evil as long as it's convenient. Nice, isn't it? Then others that do understand, they have to bear the burden. How many places you go, for instance, either churches or synagogues, where you understand revelation? No, what you hear is repetition. Either you go to a synagogue and hear repetitious teachings, or you go to congregations or then churches and you hear behavioral lists. Don't you get absolutely tired when you go to church and you find the same pastors speaking and giving you a list of behavior? The Messiah was not explaining of behaviors. He was explaining of the end of the times. If you could work through your behavior on your own, then you would not have a requirement for the Messiah. Neither should it be part of a congregation that is always repeating itself. Always repeating is repeating is repeating is repeating is repeating is repeating and repeating. They take a tiny portion of the Torah and then they explain it, and there is no link with what's coming in the future. Okay, it speaks of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, understandable. Then you find Yitzhak did this and that and the other. You find then Yitzhak did this and that and the other. You find Yaakov did that and the other. Abraham did this and that and the other. Understandable. Where is the link with Revelation? It's the same story. Do the best you can because God understands you were kind of a weak person. Where is the link? What has the Messiah said? The point is, the Torah is important as long as we understand whatsoever the Messiah did in completing then half of it. Then we take from then on. We never neglected the Torah. But we understand the Messiah came and he completed half of it. And he started his 1,000 years of these holy cities. Then 1,000 years of the seat where then the Hebrews would be roaming the earth. True? That's what Daniel said. Then 1,000 years of the seat or the roaming time has expired. Now the returning of the holy cities. The first city on the land of Cush. That's where YershiYahu was at. And then refurbishing the 7 cities of Asia Minor. And then the prophecy of Zechariah explaining then a highway of Israel and Beta Israel in northern Africa and making route. So then they receive understanding from the Messiah, they go up north and they teach the people. This is what YershiYahu did. As the spring feast was completed, then he went around and he was showing the many congregations in Asia Minor and the many places where the Hebrews were at, and they became familiar with it. Stay tuned, much more coming up.